As my video game experiences pile up, so too does fatigue for what seems to be the dogma of what video games should be, and I instead gravitate towards what video games could be. At every Jeff Keighley hosted event where he squishes on the stage with shoes made from bananas, or Akira bike slides on the stage with Heelys, with eyeless smiles he presents trailers of Inui, of pure cynicism and incest, a reminder that the suits controlling where money flows believe 5 types of games exist and are actively seeking ways to smash those types together to optimize into the every video game game. It'll only take 10 years for it to develop into cancellation or ambivalent reception. I'm over it. Nowadays, I'm looking for things that are more unusual and or intentional. I'm searching through caves underground the collective consciousness of AAA games for gems that have sunk down due to the cultural TikTok attention span. Some of these are games that were maligned for their non-traditional approach to gameplay flow, possibly incited by some influencer posting out of context footage of a gameplay segment where you operate a forklift and saying, isn't this fucking boring? I'm talking about Shenmue, which has a reputation of being a game that is difficult to enjoy because of its mundane approach and Martian-produced English dub.
Hello?
Nozomi.
Ryo, are you alright?
Yeah, I'm alright.
Fortunately for the latter, it is the future, and I patched the Shenmue ROM to experience the intended way to play the game with Japanese voices. They can actually contort their cadence to emote like people in this version, even if the children peek the mic like crazy. So really, my only problem with the games is how it sometimes wants me to input nuclear codes to jump a foot. For a game I vaguely remember being touted as boring and rigid 10 or so years ago, I was genuinely impressed by the world I oozed into, grounded in subject, surreal in presentation. What seems to be a lack of a story is one that is just subtle enough to chew on. The status quo in the game industry has got my eyelids sagging. Games copy themselves after one another and use each other to describe themselves. Lies of P is a Souls-like, Hollow Knight is a Metroidvania, Marvel Rivals is a seaman shooter. Games can be status quo works with rhythms and structures needing to be introduced and maintained to abduct the player's meat brain. But minutes within Shenmue, Ryo Hazuki has his everyday life broken by the murder of his father and subsequently tries to find direction with vague, scattershot clues. The most consistent gameplay aspect of Shenmue is the walking and talking. There is a combat system, but it only exists when the game feels like it should. You can go several hours without fighting, then fight, then wait several more hours until you get a succession of a few fights. After the father murder, Ryo goes out on the drab town, sepulchral synth pouring syrupy atmosphere. He asks anyone he can find for clues on where to go next, how to find the man that murdered his father. He comes upon a girl looking after a kitten in a cardboard box. This kitten's last parent was smeared against the pavement by the cat anathema of car. The little feline is too baby, too naive, too helpless to be left alone, so a small community does what they can to take care of it. Immediately the cogs in my analytical brain clunk once and I realize that Ryo is this cat in more ways than one. The path he takes is on bricks laid down by every little interaction he has with the people of Yokosuka. First, the cat caretaker Megumi says she saw a black car. Then he asks love interest Nozomi, then funky hot dog salesman Tom. Sometimes Ryo has to really dig around for shit hidden past a GameFAQs page, or get around by searching around for information through each NPC while Ryo is assisted in other ways. Ine-san provides him a daily allowance. Fuku-san busts all of his OnlyFans savings on Ryo's ticket to Hong Kong. Goro and Mai get him employed. Naoyuki lends him his motorcycle. An old bum teaches him bum fu. And Nozomi is a consistent emotional pillar he can lean on. There is some slack on the rope of connections Ryo has. He lives in a gated house on top of a hill, but you wouldn't be able to see any disjoint from his concise interactions with his community, especially with the voice performance in the Japanese dub, which is why I think it's key to experience the game this way. The localization is like looking at a dude who spilled an unreasonable amount of chili on his white shirt. And the dub overblows Shenmue's weirdness into something just straight up stilted, disjointed, and barely coherent. They just fished out whatever white people they could find out of the very limited amount of trash bins in Tokyo and made them speak into a can, then recorded the can's trapped re-echoes. When talking to a pedestrian, Ryo's voice has the flavor of a friendly neighbor, which is an unnerving contrast compared to what he is using them to accomplish. Keep your friends and family close was his father's departing sentiment to him, and everything that follows is Ryo relying on all of those people to leave them behind on his blood-scent trail to Lan Di. This kind of revenge story is not unfamiliar, but where it really works is that it is twisted with a story about the passage of time and all the things that slip through your fingers from it. Ryo's goodbye to his father is the first of many he has to make at the alpha of adulthood. The sundry of mechanics is a decision to make the player live in the temporality of Ryo's world. The time cycle, no objective markers, checklists, or map button. The controls themselves are mapped to Ryo's line of sight. Feel and hear the hydraulic whir in Ryo's joints. Bzz, boom, boom, boom. Slowly fade as you get used to his movements, setting, and its occupants like it's an everyday routine. I had a moment of sonder where I realized it was easier for Ryo to interact with objects in the world by holding the bumper, anamorphing into Ryo, and literally seeing through his eyes. Oh my god, Ryo. You can perceive the world? This is a game about experience, feeling the world with a touch instead of stacking numbers. Why buy a Sonic figure gacha? To unlock a spin dash move to vaporize hoodlums and sailors in combat? No, you buy it for the same reasons you buy it in real life, because you want it for it. To see through Ryo's eyes and twist his hand to see every chiseled curve of aesthetic appeal. That's it. No RPG numbers to go up to satiate the coughing addict in your skull. The only number that changes is money dwindling. For this reason, I don't appreciate the remaster adding achievements. I'm placing the dunce hat on you, bitch. The setting is enough. Enjoy the 80s East Asian cinema aesthetic spit crushed into a dream. Mundanity balanced with slight surreality, emotions crinkled into the dreamcast. Ambience whispers in a muffled, viscid soundtrack. Everyday noises in Ryo's 1,000-pound robot footsteps clinking against pavement. Recognizable faces ambulate through town and kids play where they should. You'll even have to play the grown adult that catches the loose soccer ball, if you can time the QTE right, or else it'll bang on your chest. Watch out kid, if Ryo was an ice agent, you'd be filled with 2 magazines of lead. But good on them for getting Sonic gotchas instead of hot anime girl gotchas, or posting videos of them doing that slip back dance where they Super Smash Bros. Melee wave dash. Ryo is forced to move along with the established rhythms of his hometown as he disconnects with it. After busting into a tattoo parlor, scaring off 2 sailors he previously beat up while they exclaimed, and getting one last breadcrumb to locate a guy he needs to interrogate, he's stopped outside by Nozomi. She asks, "Hey man, what about school?" Oh! This dude is a high schooler shirking his final days of adolescence to search for sailors. Ryo's journal is his thoughts on paper, and every time it flaps open it cues a loud, tragic synth. It's a reminder of something almost paradoxical, that even though we are experiencing this world through Ryo, he doesn't feel present. The only things really binding him to time is his curfew and the times he has to wait for a store to open or a person to become available. He really is the unemployed friend, until he turns into a human forklift centaur-esque hybrid. The forklift section establishes Ryo's first routine since his father died. It's not as meandering or directionless as everything before, and you get money. Although the game doesn't feel as liberating anymore as the amount of time to wander Yokosuka dwindles, while the game seriously gets me invested in increasing productivity in this factory 400% by convincing the foreman to throw exploding bowling balls at all the passerbys in my way. Fire all these other shit-ass employees and I'll bring a new industrial revolution to Japan with my own hands. Ryo is prematurely becoming a cog in the machine as the background of his life begins to move. Nozomi comes to visit and take a picture with him, feeling like she's in a whole different world already. Their worlds are diverging and Nozomi sees that. She makes the little extra effort to hold on to what they have or push it even further into something indelible, like bringing Daddy Hazuki's favorite flowers to his altar. Ryo doesn't even do this. Instead, he dings the bell and says some Batman shit. This girl is taken for granted. Ryo can call her up and ask her to check in on his old lady caretaker to talk every now and then. Actually an insane request. What is she supposed to talk to her about? The Russo-Japanese War? To me, it's clear that Ryo reciprocates, the way he never fails to show when reached out to. But it's slipping away. It's the wrong time. This young love is going terminal. One has to chase down Londi to Hong Kong, the other has to return to Canada. Simple but sweet, earnest back and forths will bruise. Nights in the park will be smeared by the street lamps. That love can't become all enveloping, just a vague ache an old man feels when it rains. That one song will remind you of the time you sliced through a cold wind in the smolders of night together, telling you everything you should have done. The hourglass melts through your fingers. Hot dog salesman Tom has the most animation in the game, making him stand out no matter if he's in Dobuita or at the harbor. My man is always moving to his funky grooves because he can't help but express his love for it. Even his lies are easy to spot because he lives too earnestly for convincing guile. The revelation that Ryo didn't know that Tom, one of his closest friends, can do a sweet tornado kick and is moving back to America makes it apparent that Ryo has not been present. The conversations with Tom has always been, "Tom, can you point me towards the plot, please? Tom, do you by any chance know anything about Chinese people?" Not, "Tom, what have you been up to recently? By any chance can you kick real good?" Their final conversation reveals that Ryo could have learned so much about Tom had he only asked. That time he didn't know he had ran out. Ryo's last walk through Dobuita lingers. Child bells twinkle tears. His gaze past the familiar sights does not break, looking forward over the grocers, the mart, the arcade. As the exit gets closer, the faux camera dolly zooms on his face. The town squeezes in on him to tug on his skin, his memories, his future, telling him to stay. But he never glances back. Only on the periphery of Yokosuka, right before stepping on the boat, he looks back to his final moment with Nozomi. Now time is up. And the only option left to him at this point is to get on the boat. Shenmue II flows directly downriver of 1, continuing to explore the themes of the first game and Ryo himself. Right off the Mayflower, men at the Aberdeen Pier tell Ryo to stop and listen to his song. Take your time and flow calmly like a river. Alright dude, I get the sentiment you're trying to impart on me, but I'm in goddamn Hong Kong. The population density is insane. You throw a stone and it'll chrome off of 15 heads like an explosive drum solo. Chungking Express ingrained in me that people here get caught in the rotating pond of crowded routines. Films like Chungking Express, or most films I've seen by Hong Kongers, express a love for Hong Kong, even if it was in the backdrop of fondness for its architecture down to the grimiest pixel, details of the abundance of life skittering throughout space and time. That same essence is captured in the Hong Kong of Shenmue II. Aberdeen, Wanshai, and Kowloon are all actual places recreated with creative liberties to fit them within the flow of the story and gameplay. I don't care that it's not exact facsimile, in fact I support it. Facsimile can dilute the essence of the location. Personally, I feel this way about New York and the Insomniac Spider-Man games. It's an impressive digital recreation, but I have a disconnect with it as a video game setting since all the little gamey aspects have to work around the setting and not through it, relying more on navigation through a minimap to find your way or collectibles instead of visual cues. It just feels dry. Meanwhile, Hong Kong and Shenmue 2 feels wet with rasterization, blocks of neon color, rundown apartments stacked high and paper stuck to walls, dozens upon dozens of interactable NPCs throughout. Kowloon is based off of the Kowloon walled city demolished in 1993, a territory inside of Greater Kowloon City, infamous for being ungoverned and largely lawless. In Shenmue, however, it is topped on a mountain territory detached from the nearby city instead of inside Kowloon. When Hong Kong was ceded to British colonial rule, Kowloon was the only place Britain told China, "Oh yeah, you can keep that, I guess." But they couldn't do shit with it since it's in the middle of another country's territory, so oops. In an article, Here's What Western Accounts of the Kowloon Walled City Don't Tell You by Sharon Lam, she recounts when her father told her about his time in the city with a passionate smirk. He talked of the food, leaking stilicides everywhere, the sky disappearing as you enter, unlicensed dentists could operate liability free, people were mugged and avoided ambulating around after dark. And the Triads acted as a city council funded by drugs and enforced through violence, but organized fire brigades, garbage disposal, and resolved civil conflicts. From what I can tell, this somewhat matches the Kowloon in Shenmue. Even in its torn form, I can't help but think of it with a warmth, how the sense of community festers throughout, how the life flickers around in the stalls. People swarming around broken buildings. This is reflected in many accounts of the city, feeling joy in the families and children of the city, the sense of community strengthening in the shared struggle of their conditions. But outside of Kowloon, people talk about it like how my dad talks about Chicago. Every time I bring up a friend visiting Chicago, he freezes and stares with concern. "Chicago?" he says in a morbid voice. "What are they going there for?" "Dad, I think they'll be alright unless they run out of margaritas to tame the violent whims of the cast of Hamilton." Vyo is a tourist this time. The map is now in hand, rotating in the screen corner. 2 offers a few more quality of life decisions this time, such as options to fast travel or skip forward in time at certain points. He's in the eclipsing size of Hong Kong. How can you familiarize yourself with it compared to Yokosuka? The game doesn't ask you to, and it isn't really Ryo's interest either. He's tunnel vision forward, speed sculling down the river. Ask a random passerby where he can find Queen Street and they'll say, "I have no life, so follow me." Okay. The first time I did this, I was floored by the POV trailing through brick alleyways, my soul chiming, before being interrupted by a cutscene of Kid enlisting Ryo's help against some hooligans trying to beat him up. "Psych, I'm stealing your bag." "Yo, you fucking idiot, we gotta get that back and earn money now." Caught in the unpredictable waves of a foreign environment, Ryo freets around with an ambiguous trail toward his goal. He shifts between beds he sleeps in, the lives of the people he leans on, and all the repetitive odd jobs. Crate carrying with a cretin sabotaging productivity with bullshit directions. Whenever I got in a nice rhythm, pressing left or right with his directions, his spine would twitch and he'd throw out some sudden succession of directions I have no way of anticipating, and patronizingly scolds me like he told me before. "Hey, just to let you know, I'm gonna get real freaky with directions, like randomly." Perhaps the sudden kick you in the groin and runaway giggling QTEs with the great end-book carrying minigames convey Ryo's fish out of water floundering. He's not really prepared for this life. He still is a kid. No amount of obstinacy can change that. The first act of this game is centered around Ryo being challenged on his immaturity, being told to learn the woods before he can continue on his journey. The woods are basically philosophies of martial artists that extend into general life lessons. Strike a tree over and over with your palm to coat the ground in velvet leaves and learn gong, to practice every day without neglect. Learn to judge yourself without conceit and do not show or use moves thoughtlessly. Get threatened by a barber so you can learn to stay calm and make the right decision. But the final mood is one that is already installed into Ryo, told to him after defending an old lady from land sharks and being asked why by said lady.
なぜって当たり前のことです。
正しいことのためにためらうことなく行動すること、それが残りの武徳さ。
Shuying humbles, then adopts Ryo like a stray cat after projecting the image of her lost, revenge-hungry brother on him. She tries to teach him patience, to calm down and see the true nature of things. But cats can easily wriggle out of your arms, as he does with her and Joy and Wong, moving forward with whatever he needs at the moment with tenuous odd jobs and gambling. He moves on to Kowloon with Ren, who has absolutely no boobs. Ren is Ryo's most accompanied companion, and he's a real shithead. To even meet him, you have to go through his pyramid scheme tactics so he can try and stab you, then ditches Ryo to get caught by Dame Judi Dench. Ryo is forced to synchronize with this guy who's mostly incompatible with him. While Ryo is straightforward and earnest, Ren drips with guile, with tricks. He splits his gang up to disorientate Ryo, forcing him to pick a guy to chase down. He tricks a talking bird to say hide in the closet before hiding behind the couch, so he can shove Don Yu into a closet. He even uses 2 double-sided coins, picking the opposite of whatever Ryo picks. I really like this is contextualized as a trick by Ren because I knew I would be having to do all this shit anyways since I'm the main character. Ryo spent the first act of this game getting refined and taught patience to pair with the restless, querulous, unscrupulous Ren. As they are cuffed together, Ryo sits still while Ren pulls at him like an untrained dog. Failing the QT chase sequences when they are cuffed together is funny since the fails aren't really detrimental. It feels in character that they would trip each other up over petty shit. It's really Looney Tunes cartoon shit. I love it. And also, he's annoying about his directions sometimes. When he tells me to turn left when left is the only path available, I'm like, okay buddy, thanks, I was about to run through the wall, Kool-Aid Man, into a cult meeting. The best part about foils though is when they have similarities after highlighting all their contradictions. If Ryo can't give a kid anything at the orphanage, Ren subtly hands him a capsule toy he definitely got for himself like Ryo does when Hungry Box pops off at getting a Smurf-sized truck. And when they split up to trace down any leads, they end up in the same place, although through different paths. They have a similar level of competency, but in different ways. You can feel respect grow while still keeping Ren ambiguous, helping Ryo one second, betting on fighters against him the next, helping him for money, helping him where it only seems like he could be doing it for the sake of it. Their relationship never becomes inappropriately coy, perpetually pissing each other off like in the Ghost Building. One of the game's few missteps, by the way. They build up the Ghost Building with intrigue and atmosphere, but the whole thing is just slow, shitty, overly punishing QTEs. If it were me having to cross multiple layers of wooden planks to get to the crest of this building, my vengeance would spill from my body. It makes it really funny though when Ren just shows up and says, I used the elevator. And Ryo looks more enraged than when his dad died. It's weirdly because they are brick dumb and antagonistic that their relationship feels the most rock solid. Ryo is constantly brushing off others trying to directly reach him even after they pick up his ass when his stubbornness gets him knocked out by the heavens or Danyu. Ren though can just show up and follow Ryo around and Ryo can't really do anything about it. The people of Hong Kong are deeply involved and influential in Ryo's life compared to how he quietly vanished from others' lives in Yokosuka. He actively becomes better and encouraged through the people he meets here. Shiyun's special move is the special ingredient to defeat Danu, while the friends he's made here hype him up. The ties being tied are getting harder and harder to ignore. As he steps away from his friends in Hong Kong for the last time, he lingers for a moment and waves goodbye this time. Each goodbye is becoming harder than the last. Sometimes Ryo feels ambiguous. After knocking Chunyon to hang on the ledge, He doesn't jump to save her from falling. He lingers over her, chillingly pulls her up and tosses her aside without a word. But 10 seconds into Guilin, he jumps into a river to save a goat-saving girl. The girl that has lingered underneath Shenmue so far and pasted on the box art, cameoing in intros and dreams, but suspiciously absent in the narrative. Intrigue builds the longer she abstains from making her formal introduction. Now at the tail end of the second game, she's here, and possibly my favorite part of the game. The last couple of hours or so are what really sold me on Shenmue II, the balmy wind down from the thrills of Kowloon. On a 2-day foot journey to Bailu village, Ryo is forced to take his time with this girl he fished out from a river. There's no reluctance to it. He walks at the pace she walks and talks with her for the sake of talking. He takes genuine interest in her through all the various questions he can ask while she shoots them back, letting him reflect back on the life he has left behind him for the first time. The dialogue is mundane but centered around what is important to Shenhua. The wildlife, the village, the little things about nature, like how the butterflies look like flying flowers, how she cried about the flowers flying away as a girl. Remember, take your time and flow calmly like a river. Take some time at night to practice Tai Chi. Let Shenhua sing your song. Don't you dare push that fucking A button. Let her fill this valley with ballad now, okay? She has him acting different, coaxing him to take detours to see grassy bumps speckled with yellow flowers. A large ancient tree trunk with spider legs, a spring that changes between 5 colors. Fireflies stipple glowing dots among a spring and tree of whirling leaves. I naturally went down the paths that had the most interesting visual details after getting lost, following my curiosities like the sound of an unknown waterfall. There's something about Shenhua that's unguarding, like it's easy to just digest every second of the world. This is what the 2 games have been leading up to. Ryo finding someone that liquefies that stone barrier around him, someone that grounds him, someone that flusters him by trying to lean in for a thank you kiss. Although he doesn't want to look bad in front of her so much that if you fail the QTE where Ryo jumps between stones in the lake and he falls in, he's alright. But he thinks he looks so fucking stupid. Oh, it's so over, man. We have to try again so he doesn't brain himself in embarrassment every night. It feels like the wispy spirits Shenmue has been smoking up comes into meaning when I see the Shenmue tree, Shenhua's name meaning a flower of the Shenmue tree. The sweeping view of the huge tree makes my skin budge, my heart do. It's like realizing the weight of every little thing, just one flower, connected to an elder tree rooting into the ground, connected to all trees, connected to time, memories of both of their parents under a tree. Being here to see the tree at this moment in this season where it blooms into cotton candy. This final stretch solidified why I appreciate these 2 games, the creation of a digital world and the love of the little things in life that flow through it. These are the kinds of things I love about video games, and it's a shame that these aspects are overlooked in game development. Sega claimed that Shenmue I was the most expensive game to produce at this time, which I'm not sure how true this is. It could have just been a marketing tactic to get Guinness to record it in ink, but looking at the behind the scenes with the usage of motion capture, ridiculous amounts of voice acting, and the research put into locations, etc., it wouldn't be too surprising. It's interesting to juxtapose this against AAA games nowadays that spend $250 million just to make the same Ubisoft likes. I saw that reportedly Insomniac's Spider-Man 2 cost $315 million to make. I don't even know how that happens. My knee-jerk reaction is that it's the result of development floundering and board prioritization, but that would be an ass move on my part. I just wish there would be more transparency on what they are spending on what. There's a common fallacy on the internet right now that bigger budget equals bigger quality and art, but this just isn't true. Time matters, resourcefulness matters, and specifically purpose. Because from what I can see, Shenmue only threw around a big wallet to realize its purpose, a vision of something different. Now time has sort of left Shenmue behind. The likelihood of the series finishing is not something I would bet for on Kasi, or whatever the fuck it's called. Stop using it. Unfortunately, a lot of gaming discourse is focused on tech bro technological advancement. So even if you bring up Shenmue to someone and they don't say, "What is that?" they might hand wave the series as one lost to time. In a 2014 Eurogamer article, "I never want to play Shenmue 3, Half-Life 3, or The Last Guardian," Martin Robinson reductively says, "Shenmue's moment has passed." And as intoxicating as its grounded, gloriously detailed open worlds were at the turn of the century, it's hard to see one man isolated from the industry recapturing their grandeur for an audience spoiled by Skyrim and Los Santos, regardless of whatever budget comes his way. This line of thinking makes me think we need something like Shenmue now more than ever. Not for the technical achievement, but for how it's aged as something more restrained and deliberate. Even its distinct bit-crushed aesthetic ages like fine wine compared to the flattening of style nowadays. It seems like gamers are too focused on the macro, the conceptual. Sure, Skyrim and Los Santos are bigger, but are they deeper? Is every second of the walk through these worlds synapse massaging? Shenmue I and II were a fulfilling experience for me even without its conclusion and me balking on playing Shenmue 3 for now. Because they are games about the moment. No game about the moment can ever be a waste. Because I don't really care about the impressiveness of recreating pores, how many numbers can go up, and the time it takes me to get from one side of the map to the other, but the details that create a connection with the human experience. Like the moment the night sinks down into the world and all the lights turn on, as you feel the weight of another day gone by.